Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. I know we'll talk about some sad news later, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, when your kids go to college, Gerard, you become an empty nester, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
temporary empty nest
They come back.
because it's semester breaks and
Right.
whatever, summers, at least for my
Mm-hmm.
daughter, not for my son. And but now we're empty nesters. My daughter moves Saturday to the DC area. If
Correct.
anyone's looking to hire a hospitality genius to be, please let me know. She does have a big interview coming up this week, but she's going to live there no matter what. It looks good for her. Yeah, so I'm like, I said to my wife the other day, like, do you want to invite my mom over? Like, her AC's broke because
Yeah.
working. We were involved in this hurricane, obviously on Thursday, and I texted my wife, and she's like, no, this is our weekend. Started alone, we're back to being alone. I'm like, all right. So my mom didn't want to come anyway, but yeah. So whatever, I called my daughter last night, and like I miss her already. I hadn't called her since September 11th. Because I don't have to call her. I could
Right.
to my house from my office and she'd be there or something.
Right.
So it's going to be an adjustment. So forgive me if I'm not as jolly as I normally am.
No, and nothing to forgive. You anticipate. I'm sure you anticipated your kids like as they got through college, and you kind of saw where their career path and their interests, but particularly Max with basketball, that they
Yeah.
would not almost certainly be living close to you in life as
So
adults.
I have been the ogre who has been coaching high school kids for a long time. Initially, I was literally coaching them, and then I was more kind of guiding and mentoring families, whatever, when I wasn't coaching high school kids anymore. I always told the moms the same thing. When they leave for college, they're only going to come back as visitors. You have to accept that. They no longer will live in your house again. And so, yes, we didn't shed a tear. My daughter was actually a little sadder that she knows this is a life change. That
Mm-hmm.
she's always welcome to come back if things don't work out, whatever. But yeah, we've always prepared for this, and we're okay with it. I think if you do it right, you normally are okay. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
worrisome if we didn't think she was capable, if my son was capable.
Right.
But he called me today. He had an appointment for something today, and they're growing up. We've done a decent job with them. They're ready to live on their own, and daddy's there when needed.
Mm-hmm.
I think my wife's going to leave work very soon for good, so she can go visit her kids every month or so.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video recently where the average age, if a man lives to the age of 80 and he's 70, and you see your parents twice a year, or your kids twice a year, you're seeing your kids 10 more times. So for me, that would be 20 if I was
Yeah.
only seeing them twice a year at 60.
Yeah.
So that's not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough where I can do this from anywhere.
Right.
So
Right.
we're going to try to spend months at a time with wherever they both are living, and then have some time on our own. So whatever, it's a change of life. Luckily for me, today's media day.
Mm.
The Celtics and the Nuggets are flying to Abu Dhabi probably right now.
Yeah, we talked about
Like,
that last week.
I'm going to be busy with what we got. A busy season ahead. Put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. As David mentioned, it is media day today. The Celtics and Nuggets already had theirs because they are on their way to
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi because they play this week on Thursday, Friday, possibly the 4th. What day is the 4th? The 4th is
The 4th, yeah,
Friday.
Friday.
Yep, Friday.
Yeah.
So they play Friday. So they're going to be on their way across a million time zones. Everybody else is talking to the media today. It's like, those of you who listen to the show know I've been to my fair share of media days. It's like the first day of school. Everybody's excited to see everybody. It's great. We have all this optimism. We're going to play fast. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And as Henry often to remind us, like everybody says all these things, and most likely they're going to play exactly how they played the year before, right? It's just right. But it's like what you talk about, David, with like teams and the draft pick. It's like the hope, the sell of like, optimism, like, ooh, we might do something different, and it's like, probably not. I'm going to be exactly who we are.
Well, so let's just do in 30 seconds. Which franchises don't have any hope right now? Right where you are is one.
Brooklyn, correct.
Right, they have no hope.
No, Detroit. Well, no hope. Detroit doesn't. They have
has some hope.
They have hope.
Yeah.
They have hope.
I think it might just be, that team.
Yeah, Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think it might just be. So 29 teams feel like, hey, Charlotte can get better. They return LaMelo.
You got LaMelo.
I think Atlanta isn't too excited.
Yeah.
The 2018 Wizards aren't going to win a lot of games.
No.
They're hoping Alex Sarr does okay, that kind of thing.
Right. And well, Utah, what are they going to do, right? Is Danny want to try to win, or is he still going to keep doing the whole let's collect more draft capital and, try to do this thing, kick the can down the road? another 5 years from now, right? But you have Laurie Marketing, so that's exciting at least.
But yeah, and Mormons seem sunny to me. I don't know. I don't get religion, but they seem. I've been to Salt Lake City many times. I really love it. Yeah, they seem funnier for some
David,
reason.
I encourage you to watch on Hulu before the basketball season gets crazy. The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Not a chance. But I'm anxious for you to give me your Cliff Notes version. What do they call it? Wait, it's not called Cliff Notes. What's it called now?
Cliff Notes is fine. Yeah.
No,
Spark
there's
Notes,
another
put Spark Notes or
Spark. Yeah,
whatever.
that's it. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
they're all the same thing.
Had dinner with a cousin of mine who, I think she's 33, and she mentioned Spark Notes, and I'm like, wait a second. What happened to Cliff?
What happened to Cliff?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm anxious to hear your version of it. Call me and tell me about it.
Because you will not be watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
I mean, especially I got Peaky Blinders. I still have another 2.5, 3 seasons left. I like there's a Thomas Jefferson, the Benjamin Franklin thing.
Okay.
With Michael Douglas. I've watched half of one. It looked pretty good.
Okay.
There's that show Hacks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which
HBO.
my wife and I just saw the 2 episodes. The last night my daughter was here. We all hung out together. That was kind of funny. My wife seemed to like it a lot. But I got the season coming. So
Fast and Furious.
My calendar is embarrassing. If you look at my calendar of games that I already have penciled in that I have to watch or colored in. Yeah, then college comes in and I gotta watch a lot of college.
Because you're helping out college kids and people like that. Yeah.
My son's team, I have to watch Alabama. They'll be fun to watch. And I've got a bunch of G Leaguers. It's gonna be a wild year. Wild year.
But fun. Wild but fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love what I do, so I'm lucky.
David, so over the weekend we had a pretty significant trade happen in the NBA, I would say. Karl-Anthony Towns is now a member of the New York Knicks. Julius Randle is a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Knicks sent Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo and forward Keita Bates-Diop and a future first-round pick via the Detroit Pistons to Minnesota.
Potential first-round pick.
Right.
It's right. Protected
top
13, 11, 9
for
the next 3 years. So if Detroit, I wrote this in an article coming up. Boy, Minnesota's going to be Cade Cunningham fans. Because if they can just get to be 10th or 11th or 15th,
right,
then Minnesota gets that first round pick, which will be nice to trade when you're trying to build around AE.
For sure. So, God, David, we can go in a million directions here, but let's start first here. Let's discuss the basketball fit for the New York Knicks, because Cat being there solves an immediate problem they have.
Right. All right. So to me, I first want to take a holistic view and then get down to the fit. As you know, I feel like teams need to win 50+ games a year, give their fan base something super exciting, give them hope for every game they play. If you're winning 50 games a year, there's no team coming in thinking you can't beat.
Correct.
You may be underdog. By the way, you're not going to be underdog a lot at home, but you're going to be underdog some potentially if you're winning 50+. 60+, you're almost always favored. So I feel like you want to talk New York first. New York had a gigantic hole to fill with Mitch Robinson being out. They adding Bridges after adding OG gave them, I think, the wing combination defensively to match up with JB and JT in Boston, Brown and Tatum. Maybe the best wing duo probably in the league. And maybe now the best wing defensive duo. So kudos to New York for kind of mashing those things together. Yeah, because in my opinion, even when I was a high school coach, I was thinking, I want to build a system to not just make our team what can be best, but who can we beat? I don't want to come up with a system where I think we can play best in terms of individually, collectively as a group, when there's another team that plays like we do, but they're going to be better than us. I want to come up with a system that they aren't going to match up great with, that I think our team can ascend to being really good at. And so I think New York has recognized, well, we got to match up those two monsters. We got Bridges. Although Bridges' defense has suffered over the years, it may just be Caitlin. The player is Caitlin Clark, right? So Caitlin Clark. Cooper. She's the player.
Caitlin Clark, yeah.
Okay, so the analyst for the Pacers, Caitlin Cooper.
Caitlin Cooper, yeah.
Calls it a soul tax, which I think is really good. If your defense is suffering individually, maybe look at how bad the team is doing. That's why I have a little bit of a red flag when you're not playing good defense, but your team is. Like DiVincenzo's numbers are depressing, in light of the fact that the team was at number 8 in the league last year defensively. So I feel like the Knicks recognize we have a huge hole here. Robinson's out for who knows how long.
Till at least December, January.
Right, and he's not so bankable anyway.
Correct.
Isaiah Hartenstein in OKC.
It's gone. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they just added a guy that's been All-NBA, a 2-time, 3-time All-Star, best shooting big ever, some people say, and better than Dirk.
He says for sure.
Yeah, but so did Henry Abbott once, and I think he's right.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. So it's not like they just added a player, but they added a player where they didn't have anybody for maybe 40-plus games potentially. So that's nice. I think that his ability to defend Jokic doesn't really matter unless they make the finals now. There's no one else in the East like him, although Embiid has got some similarities. He's just so much bigger.
And those two have a history, Kat and
Embiid.
Oh,
right.
yes.
Think about that. Yeah. So that part makes sense. You also have to look at, all right, we've got all these guys we're paying. Brunson, OG, Bridges, all this money. New York has the money. And we're all in right now. We've got to continue to maintain 50-plus wins to take advantage of this group that we have together. And I think Towns allows them to do that, even though it ties their hands a little bit going forward.
Yeah.
In terms of the money they think it's spent in the aprons and all that.
Right.
So they maintain relevance. They guaranteed Randle was his contract is up in a year, player option I think next year, and so this gives them some consistency, some continuity, and it comes at the expense I think of depth. So the fit's good. He gives them some of the shooting that they're going to lose with DiVincenzo being gone, who was such an elite shooter last year, especially the second half of the season in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It solves that problem. Defensively, I think they feel like they can absorb that loss. And then also, when you match up with Boston, you've got the two wings to defend the two wings, but you've got Towns stretching Porzingis out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a factor. Boston likes Kristaps in the paint defensively, obviously.
Yep.
And that won't be as easy dealing with Cat.
Right.
So I don't love it financially and otherwise.
Right.
I don't think it puts them to 60 wins.
Right.
But it keeps them relevant. It gives luck a chance to happen, which is what I think you need to try to win 50-plus games.
Yep.
You're going to be a second-round team in terms of what probabilities are. And if you just suffer like Indiana did with some of their opponents, some injuries, you can crest in at least the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that every year when you've got Brunson and Bridges and OG, you've done a good job for New York.
You've got a chance. A couple things you talked about there I wanted to tap into. First on Bridges, I'm with you. I think the Brooklyn situation was a factor, not only because the team was bad, but also, remember, his role switched. He went from Phoenix, where he was literally a 3-and-D guy, to now a primary offensive creator. And as you know, oftentimes, defense suffers when you then become, it's hard to do both. Well, guess what happens when he goes to New York? He ain't going to be no primary offensive creator over there. So he can go back to more of that role he was good at in Phoenix, which is including incredible defense, shooting the three. So I think this might be nice for him. But also, now that we know he can do some things when you run second units or whatever, he can be a backup ball handler and do some different things. So that's helpful for Bridges.
Well, hold on. Let's stay on Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, that requires buy-in from Bridges.
For sure, yeah.
And I'm not prepared to say, I don't know yet what he'll buy into.
Right.
Is he going to buy into completely secondary guy like Phoenix? Probably not.
Right.
Nor should he.
Right.
Is he going to be as productive and efficient with just less touches? Because that's a factor. We'll get into some of these other guys too. When you're just not playing as much, how effective can you really be? Rhythm matters and confidence goes up and down. And the more you have some success, the better off your confidence can be. And so I think there's something to be looked at there. And then also the same with OG.
Well, correct.
And then also the same with Towns.
Correct.
Yeah.
A lot of mouths. A lot of mouths to feed. A lot of mouths to feed. What I will say about Bridges, from everything I know about him and have heard and talked to people, he's a team guy. So I don't know if he's going to be a sulky, like, I'm not getting the ball, pouty kind of dude. Like, that doesn't, nothing he's done in his past suggests that that's the direction he goes in. We've heard OG make complaints when he was in Toronto about doing more, but it's like, doing more what? Like, what do you think you want to be? LeBron James? Like, that, not going to happen on this team, my guy. Like, I don't.
Well, there's no universe
Well,
I'm aware of that he would be LeBron. Anyway.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you also can't do it.
But you're right. You're not wrong that he complains some. Tom's got some work to do.
He does.
As well as he probably should read some science books. Because there's a lot of people worried they're going to have a 7-man rotation with Brian and Achua, and these guys are going to show up to April just pancaked.
I mean, listen, I know Knicks fans hate hearing it. They'll have to say, you guys, it's just narrative based. I'm like, no, it's not narrative based. Like, we saw the examples. Like, yes, it may be last season that the minutes that guys, it wasn't as much as Tom usually plays. However, his rotation was not as deep as it could have been because injuries are what ruined you in the postseason. The last 2 games against the Indiana Pacers in the conference semifinals was a combined, David, they lost by a combined 37 points. Like, that, in the second round of the playoffs, and the 7-game 7 was at home, you got blown out. That's not great. That's exhaustion because you got nothing and you got nobody on your bench. Those guys haven't played all year. So I think it would behoove the Knicks fans to think about, hey, can we get some other guys into the rotation here? So we know we go like, look, like Oklahoma City does and did, right? We're going like Indiana does, where you're going 9 deep, 8, 9 deep. And then you got guys you can trust. You know, hey, they played X amount of minutes all season versus, oh, shit, we're in the playoffs. You haven't played in like 3 months. Good luck. Well, not great things happen when you do that. So hopefully, Tom, I hope we'll learn from some of that. You mentioned Boston as what the Knicks looked at. I think they also probably looked at Philly, David. Now, that's another team that who knows what their injury history is going to be. But having Cat there is your, and I'm using air quotes, your answer for Embiid. And then with OG and Bridges, you have wings and strong bodies to throw at Maxey and Paul George, which Paul George is going to matter because, guys, he's still very good. So I think in their mind, they were thinking Philly and Boston are probably going to be our 2 toughest outs. And hell, even if Milwaukee is a tough out for you, you've got bodies to throw at Giannis and Chris Middleton and Dame, even though we think Milwaukee isn't going to be very good. I mean, at least I don't. I'm not too concerned about Milwaukee.
Yeah, they're not in my top 4 right now. Actually, I think the team that's can be the most problematic besides Boston to New York is Indiana.
Of course.
Again.
Yes.
They're just so fucking deep and so fast. And you want to try to play 7 guys against them. I think you're asking for.
And run up and down with
Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson couldn't miss the first few games. People were trashing the Pacers defense. The guy was making unbelievably hard shots. And it just isn't a good strategy. And he died the last couple of games and broke his hand. And so, yeah, I think it's an interesting point. I think the answer would be if Mitchell Robinson did not have any issues and was starting, I don't know if they do the deal.
Probably not.
Now you claimed today on our content call that we talked about this
18 months ago. We sure did on this very show.
I want to hear about it. It sounds like us. I don't remember it, but we're not alone. People have been speculating this. I guess Leon Rose used to rep.
Yes, and that's all we did. That's all we talked about.
Okay, so but I mean, it definitely solves a problem that they had with Hartenstein out and Robinson hurt. I have an interesting little analogy that I started wondering. Everyone is kind of saying New York did this and it's good, and they all recognize there's financial implications here because Cat's being paid crazy max money. You wonder how New York fans are going to handle the longevity of only getting to the second round, right? You made a point today. They made playoffs 3 of the last 4 years, and it was the desert for
7 seasons before
7
that.
straight
No
years,
playoffs.
right? And I said, if you're in the desert, a Dixie cup of, you remember Dixie cups?
I do, yeah.
I don't know if they used to have like Riddle cups,
little tiny ones, yeah. They'd be in dentist's office back in the day.
Correct. So Disney cup to a guy in the desert is fucking the best, but not when you're out of the desert. And so I like to joke. Listen, my mom once said I had a face for radio when I was 18. I wasn't a model or anything. My wife loved me, I think, initially because of lots of other things. She wasn't bored with my face. Then I lost a bunch of weight when I was in my 40s. And she's like, you know what? You've aged into a really handsome guy, whatever. Now I'm almost 60. I don't hear those kind of comments much anymore. But she loves me. We're not competing for championships. Right. We're just trying for a partnership. Well, fans don't work that way with their teams too often. There isn't just a partnership anymore. It's what have you done for me lately? You used to be hot. You're not hot anymore. So I started thinking that it's good for New York to recognize that, hey, can't get mad at us. We just brought in like the best shooting big of all time and an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's got some warts and all, but we're going to ignore those things. Because if they don't make it past the second round again,
Mm-hmm.
I just sense of, all right, now what?
Yeah.
Not that
yeah.
I think New York fans are unruly. I don't think that. I happen to I love the city. The fans are fine to me. I don't care about the Garden. It's a cool place, whatever. It's a building. But there's something special about New York when the Knicks are winning. It's great. I love it as a basketball fan. But not so special if you keep hitting that low ceiling. And I don't think this deal makes them favorites to get to the finals at all.
No.
Eastern Conference Finals, I mean.
No, but here's what
They got a chance.
Here's what I do think, David. Yes, they have a chance. And I think you and I both agree on this. If Tom Thibodeau was willing to be a little more pragmatic and elastic in his development of the rest of his roster, their chances of making a conference finals would increase just out of the sheer realization of, oh, look, I have more than just these 7 guys who I can rely on. Will he do that?
Amazing point. What did Henry Abbott say this morning?
We need Tom Thibodeau to not be Tom Thibodeau.
Right. I'm happy you remembered that. That's exactly right. So that's asking for a lot, right?
Yeah, right.
We're all allowed to grow and change, but I just don't see it.
Right. Yeah.
So what are we really saying? They're going to try to play 7 guys a lot. I looked at their campaign, maybe is the 8th guy, but that wasn't an answer. Henry asked about Jericho Sims today. That's a 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, he won't
unless something really changes. So, or if he does play, it won't be helpful. They're not going to be deep, and I think that more than ever, depth. I personally think depth matters.
Huge. Yeah. All right, so let's move the leisure to the Minnesota side of this. And you mentioned how on our call this morning we talked about 18 months ago. You and I talked about it, and like I don't want to say like we were some soothsayers, but the reason why I came up was yes, the Leon Rose connection, but also you and I talked about what is a long-term future of a Rudy Gobert and Karl Towns pairing. And we said we like it in maybe in the short term, but maybe for the rest of this, the duration, it may not make sense, particularly if Anthony Edwards becomes who the Timberwolves thought he was going to be. And that was 18 months ago before he blew up. And well, now he's still, as David said this morning, he's still only 23. Like, Andrew Dufresne had to crawl through 6 miles of shit. He's only been through 2 miles of shit. So, like, he's still got ways to go before he becomes, like, even better than what we think he is, like someone who can contend for MVPs. So he's on that trajectory. So, okay, so they decided, all right, we're gonna move on from this, right? So what is the bet Minnesota's making now with this particular trade?
I'm looking up real quick Jason Tatum's age.
26.
So he'll be 27 in March.
Okay.
So first of all, we talked about you just talked about Edwards and his trajectory, and Andy Dufresne, who Edwards is just somewhat of the way there. Tatum finally makes it to the NBA Finals and wins. Second NBA Finals. How many conference finals? A bunch.
Right.
Half a dozen or something like that? I forget now.
People don't realize that's a lot.
Yeah, right. And he's 26, will be 27 in the playoffs start next year in 2025. And what that seasons you. So the Jason Tatum at 26 in June, who did not have a great playoffs or great finals, he had moments, but he did not play well overall, was just clearly, genuinely overjoyed for Jaylen Brown. I don't know if 23-year-old Tatum would have been a little bit like, man, that was supposed to be me. Because these guys are driven that way. They want to own everything, and I'm the man, and it gets them through a lot. But the seasoning gets you the experience of, it's like you can have dreams all you want about your child, but when you get close to the pregnancy, one of my partners in another business, his first child is coming in November, and you just want healthy, boy, girl, just healthy, like that. The experience of how fragile pregnancy can be wakes you the fuck up. Stop thinking about boy, girl, whatever. Jason Tatum is seasoned, experienced. Edwards has gone through some shit now. He lost his first conference final, got drubbed actually by Dallas. He wasn't the best player on his Olympic team, won the gold, saw what it's like being a role player. He's got some more stuff to go through. And so to me, it's really interesting what Tim Connolly has done. I think we're the only media company to suggest, you know what? the deal might be a bad deal to get Gobert for all those picks, but what you're doing is you're betting on Edwards becoming an all-star, and you want to let him grow into relevancy and not just be a great player on a bad team.
Right.
And I think they did it.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of a bunch of first-round picks. They were right there. I think they lost the first seed in the last game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
Yep.
And they made it to the Western Conference Finals after being a playoff team the year before too. And so now I think, again, this is just a guess, and I'm no great Tim Connolly fan, whatever. I'm just calling balls and strikes here, Jarod. I think they're recognizing we were in tax hell, financial hell with Towns, and yet we can't just go backwards. We've got this transformative talent and personality as our shooting guard and our primary scorer and best player. We've got to stay right there in the 50-win world with the flexibility when he reaches age 26, where Jordan started winning championships or at least competing for him, and have financial flexibility and roster flexibility to populate our team then. And I think this deal gets them there. I think they probably extend Randle, who's good enough to keep them relevant as McDaniels maybe grows his game.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this.
Yeah, I think that they may not be, they're not OKC just like New York is in Boston. They might even be Denver potentially, depending on how Murray plays and MPJ plays and how they replace KCP. But they're going to give themselves a chance. And then as Edwards ages into best shooting guard, although Booker's right there, a little older though, fairly older. I think they feel like, okay, we're going to have roster and financial flexibility. And this is important, while Minnesota is never going to be a destination like Miami or Phoenix or whatever, players don't hate playing there.
Yeah.
I was telling you guys on the phone today, every guy I've had there, which is like at least 4, they've liked Minnesota just fine. It's freezing cold, but so is most of the NBA, most NBA cities. But it's a safe place to raise your family, and you can walk all. Have you been downtown Minnesota in the winter? You never have to be outside.
Yep.
So they're gonna have money, and that's the thing. If indeed they're managed where they have money, they're not going to be able to get LeBron and Bosh the way Miami did.
Right.
But they're going to be able to pay some people.
Yeah.
Because the money's going to be rich.
Yep.
And you're going to be able to play with that guard who has a pleasure to play with. He's not selfish on the court, in my opinion.
Right.
I think they're primed to be contenders, not favorites. And maybe then in 3 years or so, they can do a deal.
Yeah.
And that pick that hopefully conveys from Detroit could be a first-round pick on a middling team that isn't, as long as they're not bottom 9, you're going to get potentially even a lottery pick to trade. That's a fat asset.
Yeah.
When you're trying to build your team to be the favorite.
Yep.
With Anthony Edwards, you know?
No, I think that's exactly right. Again, to your point, because they weren't quite near the first apron, but they were already in the luxury tax with the Karl-Anthony Towns extension. So that they're going to extend Julius, but he won't make nearly as much, obviously, as what Cat was making. And to your point, by the time Ant's ready, right? I think a big key in this is McDaniels, right? Because he's only 24. We know what he can do defensively, right? We've already seen that. He had moments in the playoffs where he shot the piss out of the ball. If that can become consistent, well, now they have their two, and we already know, excellent defender, even for someone who's a primary offensive player. You got those two guys. Now we can say, ooh, with the pick and with the flexibility we have, we can go get somebody else because Ant's already in his prime. McDaniels is also, because he's 24, so he'd be in his prime also age-wise. That's the bet, right? This is the bet they're making. Does it pan out that way? We'll have to wait and see. But I like the movie. And to your point, they're not going to all of a sudden be shitty. They're still going to be a team that makes the playoffs should make it every year.
Right. Towns is better than Randle by some margin. It's not a humongous margin. Julius Randle, first of all, he's used to playing with non-shooting bigs because that's what New York had. And Randle had some fucking amazing seasons. It's not like Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitch Robinson was banging in from Steph Curry light from 3. And he's a playmaker. He can put the ball on the ground. He doesn't post up all the time. He's a bully. He brings a little toughness, I think, to that team, which I think is a good thing, in place of Cat. And they added DiVincenzo.
Yes, correct. Also DiVincenzo.
Became really feared shooter. In Game 7, the Pacers had to put Nembhard, in my opinion, the best perimeter defender, on him to shut him down because he was rolling.
Yep.
He can do that, and with the spacing that he can provide, Anthony Edwards can eat a lot. And Randle's got gravity as a scorer,
Mm-hmm.
a bucket getter. You can't just ignore him. And don't forget, this also a bet on Naz Reid.
Yes.
Because they can extend Rudy if they want at a much more workable number. And I think they will, because then maybe not this year, but next year, then they trade him to a team who's top 5 on offense, bottom 5 on defense, whoever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's say Indiana, if they don't keep Miles Turner,
Yep.
that's a team that'll be bottom 5, top 5 potentially. And you can trade Rudy in the 20-something range.
Yep.
And let Naz be your starter because he's terrific. He and Randle together are going to be dynamic.
Yeah.
Naz can put the ball on the ground too.
Absolutely. No, this is from a basketball perspective. You can kind of see the vision of where it's going, right? And what both teams kind of have in mind. The Wolves, for obvious reasons, maybe as David said, not free agency destination, all those different things, are thinking a little bit more long term based on the fact that their ascendant superstar is only 23. Whereas the Knicks, Jalen Brunson's what, 26, 7, somewhere, he's older, right? They and Bridges is already 28, 29. Those guys are in quote unquote win now mode, right? They're ready to challenge now. So they're making a shorter term bet that we're going to be good enough. If luck happens, things go right, we can make a run to a conference finals, maybe an NBA finals if everything breaks right in the next couple of years here. And that's this is the NBA, right, David? These are the bets these GMs are making every day in their mind. All right, are we short-terming it now? We think we can do something? Or are we like, nah, we think long-term we're probably in good shape, And that's, again, nothing's promised. We have no idea what's going to happen. And injuries, as we mentioned, will always play a factor. We just don't know when they're going to happen.
Brunson and Bridges are both 28 years old. Brunson just turned 28 in August. You can't go backwards when you just paid Bridges. You just got Bridges. Right. You just paid Brunson his extension. Even though it was a good deal, it's still a big number.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go backwards in New York. Right. And they had no center. Right. Jericho Sims isn't the answer. Julius Randle, one of the reasons why the Knicks finished top 8 in offense, in my opinion, is they killed you on the offensive glass in plenty of games. Mm-hmm. And that just wasn't going to happen with Randle at the 5 and Bridges or OG at the 4. Mm-hmm. I guess OG probably. No, they needed to fill that gap to be a 50-plus win team. Even if they just win 50, that's fine. Yeah. Which I think is what I think I have. I don't remember.
50, 32, I think. I thought you did.
I have, yeah. So I don't think it's much different. I still think there'll be maybe 51. I don't think it'll be a huge difference.
Right.
I still favor a few teams, certainly Boston over them. Mm-hmm. But so it's a win-win for both teams. It's better for Minnesota longer term, but New York's not worried about long term. They're worried about right now. Yep. And that's fine.
That's it. You got to do what you got to do. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, David, over the weekend, more stuff happened, or towards the end of last week, this happened. I want to say 15-year NBA veteran, former league MVP, Derrick Rose, retired from the game of basketball. And in many ways, David, his career was so much of a what if. Was he the youngest or one of the youngest MVPs? I forget.
I think he was the youngest.
Yeah. I mean, wow, incredible. I remember watching him in Memphis, and I was like, geez, can't stay in front of this dude. Like, he's just so fast. And when he gets into the lane and gets up above the ground, I was like, oh my God, this guy is just outstanding.
I want to jump on that point real fast for our listeners. Go watch highlights of, because they're all over the place now. Go watch those. Like, we've forgotten. It's easy to forget what he was like a decade plus ago. Westbrook's the most athletic point guard of all time, but Derrick Rose is in the conversation. And he built like a power forward. Mm-hmm. Powerfully built dude. I saw him as a rookie in the practice center in Berno, and he was powerful when he was 18, 19, whatever he was. Yeah. Yeah.
And that, those Chicago Bulls teams, and, again, we don't like to pile on Tibbs. The facts are what they are. I don't know how else to say it, but he ran that team into the ground, and all of those minutes and that grinding. And yes, also part of it was Rose's playing style, right? We always talk about that kind of style does not age well in this game, right? Look at Westbrook now. Like, we see it, right? It does not age well. But man, was he not just a joy to watch. And look, you won an MVP, you made a bunch of money, so no one can say like he's a legend at the bank. He's got things have worked out well in that regard, but he's one of the wonders. Like, man, what if he was actually healthy? What would the balance of the NBA been like had he managed to stay healthy throughout his career?
Him and Joakim Noah both were, I
Yes.
think, perfect for each
And
other.
Dang, right? That whole squad got,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. The thing, because I had a bunch of guys on the Bulls back then, I saw Derrick. Derrick came to his first. I think he came to media day with sunglasses on, and it was so unlike him. The players were making fun of him. Uh, he actually was a really quiet, humble superstar. You seen the video with LeBron and Dwight Howard? I don't remember, maybe
Yeah,
Carmelo
All-Star game. They're all
dancing.
dancing. He's just standing there. Yeah.
He's so uncomfortable. Yeah. There's nothing against those guys doing that, but it just
Right.
wasn't him. He grew into like a really great teammate. I saw his first ever 5-on-5 summer league game in Orlando where they had to bench him. They claimed it was an ankle injury. He might have tweaked his ankle a little bit, but he was just terrible because he had never used the ball screen before. Memphis's offense was dribble drive, which means you don't bring a screener into the action, and nobody can stay in front of him. And he did not know what to do. Yet you can't do that in the NBA. Because even if you get by your guy, there's big Jews waiting. So you have to get ball screen action, and he just had no clue what to do. He ended up being very good with it. Improved a lot, became a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he deserved the MVP. I think the metrics provide that out.
Yeah,
but he
LeBron was
would have
better,
won
but-
one probably in his career. He was basically a muscular power forward version of John Morant. Yeah,
Correct.
Allen Iverson with muscles in his earlobes. Yeah, powerful dude. Became a good shooter. Played his ass off. Yeah, my son he'll never know what Derrick Rose was like in his prime. He's too young when he was amazing. So I actually sat back and just watched some of those clips to remember what he was like, just explosive and powerful and fearless. What I love about that, the fearlessness.
And that Bulls team, they were so good. They took the Cavs to 7 games in that conference finals. I want to say. I mean, that was wow. And again, that was classic Tibbs, man. I think those guys. Was Corey on that team too? Brewer on that Bulls team?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. But they 40 something minutes. I was like, oh man, you guys, this is not great. I don't think it's gonna work out too well for you, and it didn't. But anyway, kudos. You think he makes the Hall of Fame? Yeah, because it's the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, not just NBA. So my guess is he probably does. How many MVPs don't make the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. It's a great question. We should look into that. But it's hard for me to imagine. Yeah, I just started thinking about it now. I hadn't before. When you're one of the best players in the world, it's so hard to be that person. And he was. And so, yeah, I think it'd be a mistake if he wasn't in the Hall.
Yeah, he probably gets in. So, David, as we talk about, what could have been the career or the life of someone an NBA player ended recently. Former NBA great legend Dikembe Mutombo, Georgetown legend, passed away at the age of 58. It was announced today. He had cancer of some kind. Here's a player, of course, incredible player already in the Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. Multiple time Defensive Player of the Year, all those things. But even more so than that, David, an ambassador for the game and an ambassador in Africa for his communities, and it just, by all accounts, a wonderful human being, and someone who players of his generation revered, and just a warm, fun guy to be around.
It's one of my favorite things about our game, which is a global game, and the league, is the way most of our fans and all of the teams have embraced the diversity. And it's not just black, white, Asian, Latino. It's where they're from. And it doesn't matter what country. And he is so representative of the talent, not as just players, but as people. Charismatic, caring, loving. You think of Boban and Dikembe. These are gigantic men who like you want your kids to be with their grandfathers be that way. Just warm, loving, intelligent men that provide so much. And Jarod, not to get too political, but we could really use a lot of Dikembes.
Oh, without question.
We've got a good portion of this country so at war with anyone that isn't white and European, and it's beyond sickening. For many reasons. In part because, and I just saw a video the other day of people in Springfield, Ohio, screaming at the fucking Nazis who are marching. Like, we like our community. These are good people that are there legally. They're just darker than you. Why do you care anything beyond that except you're trying to get your political agenda passed? I've often said to you, the movie The Green Mile
Mm-hmm.
reminded me, it was a Stephen King short story. The character who ultimately is put to death, Michael Duncan, what was his name?
Michael Clark Duncan. Mm-hmm.
I almost got it right.
You're right there. You were right there.
To me, it was symbolic of like, imagine the talent drain
Mm-hmm.
that has existed. Because he was a healer, like he had magical powers. Who knows how many people we've killed or enslaved or just somehow ostracized and beat down, including women, that would do so much for our world. And so Mutombo made the world a better place, and the NBA owned that.
Mm-hmm.
And we own so much more. Our players provide so much. And so it's a huge loss. And he's a little younger than me. And I told you last night, I got a text from my mom. One of my next door neighbors growing up my whole life, who's just a year older than me, he died unexpectedly. So he's 60, I'm 59, Dikembe is 58. It's sobering for a lot of us too,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a big loss. He's been sick with brain
Yeah.
cancer for a while. I'm sure there'll be a lot of reverberation around the league today.
For sure.
It's a reminder. I said to you off air, like we only get this one go around, and it sobered me. Last night hearing these news sobered me. I found out this news right before we came on
Mm-hmm.
air.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to think about it some. I'm going to watch some Mutombo tape, and I hope our players. I hope everyone wears a patch. I really do.
I'd be very
not just Rockets, whatever. I mean,
right.
It's a loss for the league and for humanity.
You mentioned the humanitarian aspect of it. For those of you that don't remember, so Dikembe was born in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The three pillars I would say that were important to him were health. So he's got the Mutombo Hospital in the Congo, economic disparity, right, and sport and basketball as a way to have children have an opportunity to move themselves out of various situations. And again, at 58, the work he was able to do, and that's not a long time to be alive, considering that he was also a basketball player for the vast majority of that time, right? A professional one. But he was doing the work even then, right? When he was a pro player. So to do the work that he's done, it is for sure a great humanitarian loss, and obviously a loss felt around the basketball community.
Yeah, I said this probably at the time when my son and I were, we really were emotional when Kobe died. And I was covering the Kobe with ESPN, and I was helping players try to beat Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
It was not easy to do at that time. But the sense of loss I felt at the loss of the inspiration he was going to be providing generations of young adults, boys and girls,
mm-hmm.
not just people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of white kids in my son's neighborhoods on his teams loved the Mamba.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal. The
Mm-hmm.
ability to overcome whatever. Fuck you. I'm gonna get this done. I used to say this back then when he first died, like I would have been dead, but in his 70s, he was gonna be doing the mortgage commercials and he would be Tom Selleck or whatever. Like he just was that guy, and it meant so much. And Mutombo was the same in his own community. And I'll tell you, I was talking to a player from Africa
mm-hmm.
who has made good money in his life and who is investing in his communities in his home country back in Africa. And he said to me, "I'm not trying to find the next NBA player."
Mm.
I said, "Oh, you want to find the next doctors, lawyers, accountants?" He's like, "Exactly."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Bingo. That's the key. Don't just do what a lot of these people do and take the cream off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Help all of them. Use basketball. Like kids will listen to me even now in basketball because I can make jump shots. I can tell them to make their bed and brush their teeth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever mentoring you want to give, I can do that. Obviously, adults don't need that, but kids did. You can do the same thing in your home country and get them to believe
mm-hmm.
there's a life. And it's not like he lives in a poor village or whatever.
Right.
But compared to America,
mm-hmm.
they're poor. And so I want to go to the States or go to Europe or
mm-hmm.
stay where you are and get advanced degrees
mm-hmm.
and be a professional.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Mutombo was doing for sure. And you can't just replace that stuff easily.
Definitely not.
There's no one like him.
No one like him. Well, because you to do that has to be in your spirit, right? You can't just
Right.
decide like, oh, I'm gonna
True.
like
Genuine. It's got to be
right,
genuine.
correct. Like that just isn't right. And there aren't many people like that. Because if there were, the world would be a much better place than it is today. And
Yeah.
on that note, folks, we will see you later in the week. Sure, we'll have stuff from Media Day. Wonder what Jimmy Butler's going to cosplay as at today during this Media Day. Last year he came with the extensions. I'm just curious what Jimmy's fun thing is going to do this year. Maybe he does nothing fun. Maybe he becomes serious because Pat put the hammer down. Like, I need you to play more games this year. We'll see. All right, folks. We'll see you later on in the week. Take care.